wider view of the front garden space. Move in. These are the ones here. Plants that I was hoping would be hedge plants, but they're actually very slow growing. This one, which I've got a stick near to gauge its growth rate, is an Australian native that should actually grow some berries that are edible. Excuse the car going past. These have got it basically on the corners. So there and there as well. So I'll flick it back around. So I've got some plants here that were transferred from other garden areas. This is, I think, dianthus, or I've forgotten the name of the other one now, but I've got some near the pond and they're actually growing nice flowers. That, I think, is one from the local hardware store. Let's get rid of that weed there. I've actually got some bulbs planted in here. 2 different varieties, 3 of one, 2 of the other. There's one of the flowers. Carnation, I think, is what it was. So that one hopefully is actually growing. I can't remember if I transferred it with the flower or if that's actually growing. If it's growing, that's good. It means it's doing well. More of the ones from the garden part of our hardware centre. There could be hollyhock, I'm not sure. We're not sure what the one in the front is. I haven't really kept track of the names, but that's alright. These are my dahlias. Now, I'm not sure if I need to cut them back or not. I am going to attempt to overwinter them. We'll see. I actually grew them from seed, so it's not a huge issue if they do end up dying off, because it wasn't that pricey. It wasn't like buying the tubers and then going from there, but I'll see how that goes. And here I've still got a pea, which is a second generation, I guess, for my stuff here. Again, that's a store-bought one. That's a little potato that had self-seeded in here. This is a remainder of the soil from the front yard. But here, again, more cars going past, sorry about that. The hollyhock are actually doing quite well there. I've taken down the last of the sunflowers because I don't think they're going to do much more blooming. My lupin is looking a little bit worse for wear. I'm kind of holding it up there. That one didn't actually flower, whereas, let's go through the nectarines here. This small one actually did, and it's actually got some seed pods on it. So let them keep going. Alyssum, which I love the smell of, so I've got a few of those around the place. Snapdragons, which I believe are a dwarf variety. It's a bit of a shame. I'd like it if they're actually bigger ones, but that's okay. And then we get to a bunch of different ones around here that, again, were bought from the hardware store, and so there's a variety, and I can't really remember all the names. This one's an interesting one. It's supposedly scented, and you can see, I think that's a little flower there, but again, I can't remember the name of it, and that one should actually grow to a reasonable size and should fill out this little area quite well. More of the alyssum, another snow pea, I think it was. Here we go, we can actually see what this one is, because occasionally I do actually leave the sort of, okay, there you go, so that's Lobelia Blue Eyes. I'm not sure what that one is, but it does have a lovely bit of colour to it, but I might have left the tag for that one in one of the other spots. Oh, yes, I have. Here we go, so that one is Primula Burgundy. Oh, that's not focused at all. Oh, there you go, Primula Burgundy. Very nice. This one is the rose that I actually bought, not like the one on the corner. So it's called Scent Elemental. Very nice pun there, with an intense fragrance. So I'm looking forward to that. Here we've got some bulbs that are coming up that I didn't plant. So I'm kind of curious to see what they end up as. And I've got the remains of my gladioli. And there's also lilium there. And again, see, more bulbs. I actually did pull those up. Well, I uncovered them at a point to check because I thought there was a chance they might have been some yuccas growing up, and I don't like yuccas. They just keep growing no matter what you do with them. But it turned out they had bulbs, so I figure they should be okay to leave. I'm not sure what this one is. It's quite possibly one that I threw seeds down for and it's growing from that, but I'll let it do what it wants. They've got our lovely Johnny Jump Up, I think, yeah, Viola. Just have a look at my label in there so I can tell as well. So I'll just duck around this side. Since this is my other part of the front garden, as you can see there's I do have the label of that somewhere. Again, more of these ones that just really aren't growing. The Australian native. Then we have a whole bunch of nectarines, and then the new addition of a new garden bed that I decided I wanted to create. This is a recent transplant from over there, so it's looking a little bit worse for wear, but hopefully it comes good. So I've got a whole bunch of store-bought plants topping up. That one's actually not store-bought, well, it originally, but it was from seed. Actually, that one might have been from seed as well. Aquilegia, I think they are, that I've had around the back. Of all the ones that I bought from the store, this seems to be the only one that really hasn't done too well. There are, I think, 3 or 4 of them in total. But, yes. This is the first one that I put in. That's another one of those ones that is not doing so well. And then I've got, I think it's a mini carnation. Oh, actually, there we go, carnation, I love you. The little flower, that's how I bought it. So that's the other one of those corner plants. And the lovely lavender. Now I'll do a quick ignore the mess, ignore the mess, ignore the mess, ignore the mess. 2 giant boulders. Thing that someone who was supposed to fix our roof left and then they disappeared. Ignore that. Into the backyard. So, shutting my gate and trying not to break my nails. Okay, so the white grape is doing quite nicely, growing up there. I've got another piece of this, I think it's rebar mesh, which I'm planning on probably putting over sort of that part of the fence, so hopefully the grapes can grow across and maybe even around that way eventually. I can put in little supporting structures for them. Here we see the capsicum did not, or sort of the bell pepper or sweet pepper or whichever one they're called. I think bell pepper tends to be what you refer to them as, but we call them capsicums, and it hasn't done too well out here in the cold. And you can even see the self-seeded potatoes aren't doing super well either. They seem to be sort of getting a bit frostbitten and such. However, I do have, I'll see if I can duck around carefully here, some of the peas, I think they are, popping up. There's another one just there, and a bunch more over there, so they should be good. Carefully step across. Now, here it's getting a bit tricky because there's a bunch of grasses and things which I'm not too fussed about yet. I'm mostly focused on getting rid of the sticky weed. There's the kale, which never grew very much, but it's at least there. I'll leave it there. Various lettuce that I've got scattered about the place. And my one really successful bit of carrot growth. My plan is to let this one go to seed, purely because I figure then I'll have a carrot that has grown well in these conditions, and hopefully the seed will be better suited to this environment. That might not make sense at all. There's also some rubbish there, I'll have to get rid of that at some point. But I'll go with that, and at the very least should have some nice flowers come from that, which I'm happy with. Again, you can see more of these self-seeded potatoes are looking a bit worse for wear. And come over this way in this garden bed. You can see I've got little sticks here to indicate the points that I planted some things in. So this one, I don't remember what it is. It could be kale, it could be broccoli. You can see I've actually got another one just there, but they should do all right. The red grape here is looking a little bit rough, but hopefully it's all right. And we'll go around. I did put some carrots in around here, so I don't know if they're going to take or not, but we shall see. So I'll get down the end, do a bit of a turnaround, because this part is actually doing quite nicely, I think. So these are the garlic and some lettuce. Again, I scattered the seed because I wasn't focused too much. Anyway, the garlic here is a mix of store-bought and then second generation store-bought. So the second generation store-bought is the store-bought ones, exactly the same garlic cloves that these are from, but I put one of them out in the garden last year, I think it must have been, and it grew. So we had some garlic from that, but there were still some cloves left, so I planted those here. So hence it's first and second generation supermarket garlic. So far it seems to be doing quite well. I'm thinking it's a hardneck, only because when we get the cloves, the actual stalks on them do seem quite hard. I don't know if that means that it is hardneck or if that's just how they end up, but we'll see. This, as I scrunch myself across, I believe is a row of onions, because I did put onion seeds there, but they can be a bit hard to distinguish between those and that, which is obviously just a grass weed. So they're going to need thinning at some point, but I'll let them keep going. I don't know, noisy cars, I don't know if all onions do that, L-shaped sort of bend that I've heard a few gardening YouTubers talk about, so I'll leave them at least and see how they do for that. Worst case scenario, I'll just have a whole bunch and we'll see how they go, which is also fine. Again, more of the self-sown potatoes, not looking fantastic. Now this part I topped up when I was getting rid of some of the garden beds in the greenhouse. Now the basil looks quite spent. I don't know if I can use some of those bits for seed or not. The parsley, however, is just continuing to grow seemingly no matter what. This is a cabbage that there were two of them that grew. One, the main stalk kind of just got a bit worse for wear. They were absolutely hammered by caterpillars at one point, but this one seems to have survived. And not only that, it actually looks like it's having a second attempt at it all, which is good. Here, I think that's one of the avocados, I think, that I found in the ground. So I'll see how that goes. Aloe vera, which actually came with the house. That was a spare one from the plants I got from the local hardware store. Nectarine tree. Clearly, when they're more sheltered, they don't lose as many of the leaves. So that's kind of nice. This is the apricot tree, the damaged part, but the fact that it has got this nice sort of growth and it is still going, so hopefully that'll come good. This nectarine tree, which is a bit close to it, but actually if you have a look here, see if I can get the right angle and lighting angle. If we turn around that way, it might be a bit better. There we go. And see, it's already getting some buds on it. And it's the middle of winter, so I'm not sure how soon it should be getting them, but there you go. Now we have my oh dear, my rhubarb. Hopefully the crown there will be fine, because it used to have 2 leaves, now it has none, obviously. But I'm guessing, or hoping, that the fact that it's winter, it's not really meant to be or expected to be doing much. Have my gooseberry, which is looking a bit sort of worn out at the moment, but again, if we come in, and if we get the focus, there we go. There are some buds along there, so hopefully that produces again this year. I've got one, I think, of it last year, but I did buy it last year, so it's not, or maybe earlier this year, I can't remember, but somewhere there. More nectarine trees, because I had a lot of those stones. The pile of topsoil, actually, that's what's left of the other pile. That is the pile that had a yucca trying to grow again, even though it's been buried under that sort of soil for, I think, at least 6 months, if not a year or so. But anyway, so that's the rest of the topsoil. This is the main compost pile. There's horse manure at the bottom of that, and then it just gets topped up with garden scraps, veggie scraps and food scraps and things. And I also put some of the soil from the raised bed in there, because I figure that should have some decent stuff in it, and that all gets mixed through, should be fine. I have plenty more sticks and things for making more garden beds. Speaking of which, I topped this one up a bit recently. I should actually, let's pull back a bit there. The peas, I think they're the sugar snap peas, have done a lovely job of climbing up my improvised trellis there, which is exactly what I wanted them to do. Gives a nice bit of colour and provides a bit of food, which is good. Again, the scattered lettuce. That's a hollyhock that is not, it's not terrible, but it's certainly not growing as much as the ones in the front, but that's okay, as long as it's plodding along there. I turn around here, there's another, I think that one might be a snow pea, it could be either. Again, sorry about the car going past. I've decided what I might end up using this one for is essentially, well, I guess peas and beans there, but I'll probably make it actually a strawberry bed because it's a nice height. There's plenty of room here. This is the older one. This is one that grew off a runner, so this one will probably be the main producer if that one produces at all, but that's okay. We can top it up. I did also plant some peas and beans in here so they can grow up. These, I'm not sure about. These might actually yeah, see that one, I think, is sticky weed, and that's kind of my main focus of weeding and things like that. Obviously there are plenty of weeds around, but if I can at least get on top of the sticky weed. A nice bird sound. There we go, our little song maker. Yeah, if I can at least get on top of the sticky weed, I'll be fairly happy. Okay, so self-grown orange tree. Well, self-grown, I mean I saved the seed and that's doing its thing. My raspberry, now I'm hoping that it's common that they basically lose all their leaves and start looking a bit bedraggled in winter. Again, I guess that's just the standard sort of dormancy stage. So I'm hoping that that one's fine and that we can get some raspberries from it later. We'll see how we go. Nectarine, nectarine, nectarine. I don't need these all. They just all started growing in the veggie patch, and I decided at one point that I should start pulling them all out just to make room for actual vegetables and things. I thought, well, I don't really feel comfortable killing them off. A lot of them tend to end up getting that horrible black curling at the ends. Now, I know you can treat that with, I can't remember what it is, but there's a particular thing that you can basically put on it. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that or if I'm going to give them another year to see if they can survive on their own. Some of them, I think the sheltered ones, like the one over there and there, they might actually do all right without it, but I may end up having to use the proper stuff. This is just a bucket that I've left there, catching a bit of rainwater, not a lot. This plant pot, but that actually has some saved water plants, which we bought with the pond, but when I tried to put them in the bottom, they all sort of came apart. Unlike the other two plants, which obviously green with algae, but the fish seem to be fine with that and provide some bit of food. One of them is actually doing quite well and spreading out, and obviously the lily has done quite well and spread out as well. So here I have cornflower, which I believe was bought as an actual plant. There's a mosquito there as well. Bought as a plant from the hardware store. That's the Nigella, which was actually got from our Food is Free laneway as seed, which I replaced recently. I took, which I think I put in a video and sent up and walked up and put my own saved seed in there, as well as some sweet peas, I think. And again, I'm not sure what this one is. I have scattered a number of seeds in here, so it could be something that will make a nice little cover eventually when the weather turns nicer. And here's more of the carnation or dianthus, I think is what the options are. You can see some of them are starting to bloom now, which is lovely, so that's good. There's another one. I need to actually move that solar panel for the pump back to a better spot. Just helps a bit there. I've got more of the carnations, and these are some sweet peas, and some more sweet peas that I harvested, and there's some more from there. So I've actually planted them on from some pods that I got from there. And the lovely alyssum there, with the lovely smells. Hollyhock again, and the corner that we'll ignore. I think that's a dog rose. I didn't plant it, and I've never had flowers on it, but I'll let it keep going for a bit longer, and then I may end up taking that down if I get around to a point of trying to clean that area, because it's a bit of a an eyesore at the moment, but it's kind of out of sight, out of mind, to be honest. Okay, to the greenhouse, which has changed quite a bit. Okay, so... Oh, bang. As possibly saw in the video, that's got... I'll probably end up putting another screw in there, because my little hand trowel has... I just need to make sure it's the right size one. I'll probably rearrange all that at some point, that's fine. As always, self-sown potato. These are all basically pots with soil from the raised beds that I took out. Actually, the bottom ones there have some sand that are from way back when I made my barbecue. So there's some leftover bits of sand in there, and they've grown some. Oh, there's a better example just there. Anyway, so I've got more pots and things there. Today I managed to pick up some free water containers. That one, same as this one, but it doesn't have one of those, so I might have to investigate getting one to fill in. But to start with, I'm going to see if I can open that up and find a spot in here, actually, where I can leave it to gain water, because there are spots in here that drip enough to fill, or more or less fill, things like the watering can, and have done, mostly because I still haven't done a very good job sealing off here. You can see here the water marks. That date is when I was doing some checking to see where some dripping points were, so I could track them down and work on trying to clear them. But anyway, we'll leave it for the moment. This has the remains of our Vaughan Springs natural mineral water, which is from Vaughan Springs, funnily enough, near Castlemaine, which is about an hour and a half or so drive from here. I took my two youngest children up there last weekend. There's a giant slide. I should have a clip that I can put in here so you can have a bit of a look at the place. Vaughan Mineral Springs with the famous slide. Place I used to come as a child, probably about 30, or actually probably more than 30 years ago. And I just come up for a day trip, enjoying the lovely sounds of the river and the wildlife. But it has natural mineral springs. As an adult, I recognised the sort of sulphuric-y smell to it, so I didn't try it. Used to have it when I was a child, but my son said that it's fine to start with. I'm just moving this to a spot where I just noticed a drip. To start with, it's fine, but it does start sort of having a bit of a funny taste. So I'm guessing that's the changing, mixing of the minerals and things like that, but that's fine. But I'm going to use that on some of the plants. I already have, but I'll keep an eye on them, because I can't remember what the composition is. I tried to look it up, but it's not easy to find. We'll probably go up there at some point again, and when I do, I'll probably take more containers to capture some more water and bring it back. But they do have a list of all the minerals in it up there, so it'll probably be good to check and see if that would be a good water supply, albeit a long way away. But if we're going to go for a day trip, we might as well get some nice water for it. Again, this is the self-grown seed, so I saved that seed from somewhere. I can't remember what sort it is, but it seems to be growing quite nicely, and I'll leave it there. That, I think, is actually just a weed, so I'll put that there and can go off. These are some cuttings that I made of the apple tree, which is, I think it's a Granny Smith. It's from the hardware store. I needed to trim some bits off anyway. I can't remember where they were coming out, but they were in a spot that I didn't think was particularly good, and I thought, well, I might as well put them in. Since then, I have noticed and learned that they really should be around the edges of it, and very few people actually explain why that is. So I looked a bit further and I found out that there are a few reasons why. One is that the outside edge can be a bit warmer, but also it tends to apparently encourage the root growth. I can't remember what it was, but basically there are some reasons why they should really sort of be stuck in around the edges rather than just anywhere in there. These are my lettuce. I'm pretty sure the iceberg lettuce that I was growing in here, and I potted out, or potted up. because I want to see if I can get them a bit bigger before I consider putting them out in the actual veggie patch. This is a Hebe, so I'll give Eli a credit for that one, because I saw Hebe in one of their videos and I thought, oh, that looks really nice. And then I went down the rabbit hole and found out there are a whole bunch of different ones. So I got 2 of them. And so this one's still in the pot that it came in. That one's potted up. I just want to see what the difference is in terms of growth before I consider putting them out. I have to have a look if it's got the, there we go, the height. See, at 1 metre, that might actually be a decent size for my front hedge. So I may end up actually putting them out there and using them as hedging. I'm still looking for a hedging plant that will give me a good height in a reasonable span of time. I actually think I have a pittosporum, I think that's how to pronounce it, effectively tree in our backyard. We used to have them lining the back fence, and then the neighbours sort of asked if we'd mind cutting them down. And I said, yeah, that's fine. But the one that we still have, I didn't cut down because it turned out there was a bird's nest in it, and I think a possum actually as well. So I thought, oh, nope, that's staying there for the moment. But if I take cuttings from that, I might be able to create some new plants of that and get some hedging out of it, hopefully. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, one of my kiwi seeds, it looks like it's doing quite well. Very happy with that. Very happy. And a couple more that seem to be doing quite well. Again, very happy with that. Over here we have some Linaria. If I get my hand out of the way, it'll focus on them properly. I pricked some of those out. Which are the ones here? There's the noisy dogs across the road again. I'm curious to see how they go. I wasn't sure if I should prick them out at this point. I mean, they've only got their first leaves. I don't think they've actually. If I come over here, you can see, I think they're just the hint of the second leaves actually coming in there, possibly. Okay, so that might be all right. So that's good. More of the kiwi orange trees, I believe. This I'm still waiting for things to happen. I think some of these things, obviously you can see here, these are quite wet. Now this is actually a coir mix that came with some seeds. Our local supermarket have done a thing the last 2 years, I think it is, I think around spring, so I'm hoping they do it again, where they basically provide you little containers. I'll go across here. These little things. Pots of fun. So they come with, in this case this is a salvia, comes with a little coir mat, hang on there, and that little bit of material there actually has the seeds in it. So it's all biodegradable, even the little cup there, and it's just sort of a lovely little thing that they do. I think it's every $30 spent you get one of those, and it just encourages people to do their own growing, things like that. So I had a whole bunch left over, so I obviously probably put a bit too much water in them, but I was letting them sort of dissolve, and then I thought they'd probably drain out. They don't seem to have drained out too well. So I've got some aster in that one, carnations in there, and Canterbury bells in there. Sorry about the blurriness. If they grow, they grow. If they don't, they don't. I think I've still actually got some more in the packet, so that's fine. Now, speaking of the hardware store, I got enough rewards points to get another $20 voucher. So with that $20 voucher, I got a polyanthus mix, Primula white mix, and it's obviously been discounted, I think, because some of these are looking maybe a little bit rough around the edges, but that's okay. Ceanothus, I guess, Pacific blue. This one I'm thinking again is a possible one for hedging, because it gets up to 3 meters, which is more than I want. I'm thinking maybe between 1.5 meters is probably good. But it does look nice, so at the very least it could be very nice. But not just those, I also got 2 bags of premium potting mix. Those are actually about $4.95 each. So for the 2 bags of premium potting mix, and basically a little box full of flowers and things, with a $20 voucher, I came away with about 50 cents change. So pretty good for basically just taking a bit of time and doing some surveys online. Now, the pink watering can in the room, as it were. Yes, I took down the last raised garden bed in here. So if I come back here, you can see there's a lot more room in here now. And I quickly knocked up this table here. I may eventually put a shelf under there, but it's actually quite a long span. This is actually made of the same thing as my potting table, which is they're all doors from a wardrobe, and we just didn't need the doors on them. I've got one more left, in fact. So I thought, well, that actually could make quite a nice table to put some pots and things on. The bags underneath here, so recycling obviously the same sort of bags as the potting mix. Actually, some of these can be the potting mix ones. I've filled those with the soil from the raised bed, bits that I didn't sort of put out to the compost. And as you can see, there's another self-seeded potato, so I put that in there. It can just sit there, and if it grows, it grows. If it doesn't, it doesn't. That's fine. In addition to these water containers today, I also got what was described as strawberry netting. I thought, well, that's all right, I'll grab that because it's free and it's probably not too bad. I assume it's basically just to try and keep the birds and things off. So I'll put that there and see how we go. And finally, the area that used to have the L-shaped raised bed has a whole bunch of things. So a bunch of the pots and things used to be over in the corner there. The tomato plants, there's one there. That's why I potted the other one up. Hang on. Sorry about that. I just had to take a call, and my partner requesting a coffee. So yes, the tomato plants that were in the raised bed, I've put one in a pot, and the other one I've actually just put straight into the soil here, because I figured that should be fine. They either survive or they don't. I mean, it's winter now, so the fact that they're still alive at all is pretty cool. That one's even got some flowers on it. I really don't think they're going to develop, but I'm kind of just going to see what happens if I can keep those going until the weather warms up. Speaking of warm weather things, pineapple still seems to be fine. It's not dying off. It looks healthy enough, as does that one. I don't know if they'll ever produce fruit, but I kind of like them there anyway. Lettuce, I'm letting that one go to seed, and obviously it's getting close to it actually, because you've got some of the flowers there. Worst case scenario, nothing happens with it, no loss, have some nice flowers. Best case scenario, get some seeds from it. The avocado that I found buried deep in the raised bed that was over there, I don't know if that's actually going to go anywhere, but again, it doesn't hurt to leave it there, that's fine. This is actually a bunch of weeds and grass and things I keep pulling out, and I just leave that in the water, and they can sort of rot down and theoretically make a nicer mix of water, I guess, for plants and things. My capsicum, that's right, capsicum, which I've took the 2 bits off, that's just going to sit there, again, like the tomatoes, it'll sit there until next year. My 2 nicely growing apple trees, they actually had a whole bunch of the Aquilegia, which went out to the new front garden beds. The orange tree, which looks like it's again gone past the height gauge there, so that's good, it's growing nicely. I'll transplant that out when the weather warms up, because I do want that out the front to grow. Along here I've got some of the flowers that I bought for the front bed. I tried to keep at least one of each of them in here, because I figure they'll have a very good chance of living in here. So if worst case scenario the front ones die off, I've still got backup. That may actually be spinach, I'm not sure. Because I'm not great at remembering where I put things. I do have a bunch of broccoli in here. That's the honeysuckle. No, not honeysuckle. The one that we were looking at before. Never mind. That one has not really grown a lot, so I might need to water it more. That might be the issue with it. But anyway, I do have a bunch of beans in here. You can kind of just see them there. And I put that around because I wasn't sure if they were being nibbled or not, but it might actually just be the way they look as they're starting to grow. But anyway, that's all we have in here. Trying to keep things a bit more organised, but a lot more room without the raised bed. But anyway, that's all from me for now. Thanks for watching, and happy growing. Neighbours outdoor light, which seems to always be on, but that's all right. I've got my pretty lights. There we go. All the way around to the front. And then the old fake lantern light, which I still quite like. And the other one over here, because it originally started with the 2 of those. There we go. And quite nice sunset light. There you go.